On a foggy October morning in 1987, a fishing boat called the Marlene Rose pulled into the harbor at Craven Point, a small coastal town that hadn't seen a crime worse than petty theft in a decade. The crew wasn't carrying fish that morning. They were carrying a question that would haunt this town for the next 37 years. Because the lighthouse on the edge of the point, the one that had burned every single night for 62 years without fail, was dark. And the keeper was gone. Craven Point was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone. Population just under 900. One diner, one church, one school, and one lighthouse, Lylehaven Light, perched on a granite outcrop where the rocks chewed through 3 ships a century before it was built. The keeper was a man named Walter Aldous Penny, 54 years old, widower, no children. He'd kept the light for 19 years, ever since the job passed to him from his own father. Walter wasn't a hermit, exactly. He came into town every Thursday for supplies, played checkers at the diner counter, and always waved to the ferry as it passed beneath the light each evening at 6. On Wednesday, October 14th, the ferry captain noticed something strange. Walter wasn't on the walkway. He didn't wave. The captain thought nothing of it. Maybe he was sick. Maybe he'd stepped inside for a moment. But that night, for the first time in living memory, the light didn't turn on. The harbor master sent 2 men out the next morning. They found the lighthouse door unlocked, which wasn't unusual. Walter rarely locked it, but inside, something was wrong immediately. The kitchen table was set for dinner. A pot of stew sat on the stove, burned black and dry, the gas still hissing faintly. A half-finished letter sat beside the plate, written in Walter's neat, careful hand. It started, "Dear Margaret, I think someone has been..." And it stopped there, mid-sentence. The pen was found 6 feet away, near the base of the spiral stairs, as if it had been dropped or thrown. There was no Margaret in his life that anyone could identify. His late wife's name had been Eleanor. Walter Penny was never found. Not that day. Not that decade. Not ever. The state police were called in, since the local department had exactly 2 officers, and neither had ever worked a missing persons case more serious than a runaway teenager. What they found only deepened the mystery. There was no sign of struggle beyond the dropped pen. No blood, no forced entry. The lighthouse sat on a narrow rock spit with a single path back to the mainland, a path that was, at low tide, the only way on or off without a boat. The tide chart for that night put low tide at 9:47 p.m. The ferry captain's last sighting was at 6 p.m. That left a window of nearly 4 hours where, theoretically, Walter could have walked off the point. But why would he? And to where? Craven Point had one road out and a checkpoint at the town's only gas station that, as luck would have it, had a part-time attendant working that night who swore no one passed through on foot. Searchers combed the rocks for a body for 11 days. They found nothing, not even his coat, which had been hanging by the door, untouched. The unfinished letter became the obsession of investigators and townsfolk alike. I think someone has been what? Watching him? Visiting the lighthouse? Tampering with the light itself? 3 weeks before he vanished, Walter had filed a complaint with the harbor master's office, a strange one. He claimed that on 2 separate nights, he'd seen a second light blinking from the rocks below the lighthouse, well below the tide line, in a place no boat could safely anchor and no person could safely stand. He described it as answering his own light, blink for blink. The harbor master logged the complaint and chalked it up to fatigue. Keepers, after all, spent long, isolated nights staring into darkness. It happens. But residents who'd known Walter for years insisted he wasn't the type to imagine things. He was meticulous, calm, not a man given to ghost stories. And then there was Margaret. This is where the case turned from missing person to something the town still argues about at the diner counter to this day. No Margaret was ever connected to Walter Penny. Not a relative, not a friend, not a name in any letter he'd ever sent before. Genealogical researchers, decades later, found exactly one possible link. A woman named Margaret Calloway, who had drowned off Craven Point in 1931, 56 years before Walter disappeared, when Walter wasn't even born yet. Margaret Calloway had been the previous keeper's wife. Some townsfolk took this as nothing, a coincidence, a name pulled from old local lore that Walter might have heard once and forgotten until that final night. Others weren't so sure. The lighthouse's old logbooks, kept since it was built in 1925, recorded the Calloway drowning in spare, official language. Mrs. Calloway lost to the rocks during a storm. Search called off after 4 days. 4 days. The same number some early reports, later disputed, claimed searchers spent looking for Walter before state police took over, though the official record gives 11. Whether that detail is true, embellished, or simply a rumor that calcified into local legend over the decades, is something no one has ever been able to confirm. Over the years, 3 theories have dominated. Theory 1. Walter walked away. Some investigators believe Walter staged his own disappearance, perhaps overwhelmed by isolation, grief for his late wife, or a breakdown no one around him recognized. The unfinished letter in this theory was a final note before leaving his old life behind. The trouble: no withdrawal of savings, no missing identification, no trace of him ever surfacing anywhere else in the country, then or since. Theory 2. Someone came for him. The mysterious answering light Walter reported weeks earlier suggests to some that someone had been watching the lighthouse, perhaps smugglers using the rocks below as a drop point, spooked when Walter noticed and reported it. In this theory, Walter was taken or killed to keep him quiet, and his body was disposed of at sea. The trouble: Craven Point's Coast Guard records show no smuggling activity in the region during that period, before or after. Theory 3. The accident no one can explain. The simplest theory, that Walter slipped, fell, and was swept out at low tide before the water rose again, fits the rocks, fits the timeline, and fits a town that genuinely believed nothing more sinister could happen there. But it doesn't explain the unfinished letter, the name Margaret, or why a man who'd lived on those rocks for 19 years would suddenly, carefully, lose his footing on a calm October night. Belhaven light still stands. It was automated in 1991, 4 years after Walter vanished, and the keeper's cottage was eventually converted into a small maritime museum. There's a glass case inside, near the entrance, holding 3 things: the burn pot, a drop pen, and a photocopy of the unfinished letter under glass, exactly as it was found. Dear Margaret, I think someone has been. Every October 14th, a handful of townsfolk still walk out to the point at dusk and watch the automated light blink on, right on schedule, the way Walters never failed to before that one night. Nobody. No suspect. No resolution. Just a sentence that never finished, and a name that, as far as anyone can prove, Walter Penny had no reason on earth to write. If you have a theory about what happened to Walter Penny, or if a story like this from your own town has stuck with you for years, drop it in the comments. I read everyone. And if you want more unsolved cases like this, the kind that never got a clean ending, subscribe, because there are a lot more lights out there that went dark without an explanation.